Hello, everybody. Welcome to the National Parents Union nightly restorative check-in. I am your host, Marisol Rucha. Today is January 20th of 2021, Wednesday, and it is with a lot of joy that I am with you today. So again, I am the host, Marisol Rucha, and I am the mother of three women, Camerina, Emilia, and Sofia. I am the daughter to Irma and Abran. I am the grandmother to two women, Isabela Luna and Cynthia Eliana, who are really babies. And I am the granddaughter to Camerina, Alejandro, Francisco, and Carmen. I'm also the very proud wife to Daniel and sister to Alex, Tia, and Cameron. And I always introduce myself in that way, just as a reminder of where I come from and everything that I'm a product of. And I'm a product of love. I'm a product of wisdom. I'm a product of pain. I'm a product of challenge. And introducing myself in that way lets me know that I've arrived, and also reminds me that I'm here to do work, and the work that I'm here to do is not about me. And this is not just my work. This is the work of generations and the work for generations. So reminding myself and introducing myself every time I do the show in that way, it just really reminds me of that, and it keeps me grounded. So I haven't talked to my mom today. Hi, Mom. I'm glad that you're here. This is my mom. And I'm going to go ahead and just move into the breathing technique. And then I'm going to have a conversation with Oralia Mijares Burns, who I saw just joined. Hello, I'll bring you on after the breathing technique. I'm so excited to talk to her, and I'm so excited about today, and I'm so excited about being a woman today, being a woman of color today, having being the grandmother of women of color. And so I'm excited to talk to Oralia because she's also a mom of women. So anyway, let's do our breathing technique before I get all emotional. Excuse me. Okay, so, and this breathing technique was taught to me by Dr. Anjali, who was one of the very first guests on this show way back when in March. And she taught this technique. It's called the 4-7-8 breathing technique. And she has told me, to really do this technique in between transitions, to do it needing peace, needing focus. And so I use it every day throughout the day. And we always do it at the start of our show. So hi, Anjali, I love you, and I love your heart too. So as a reminder, Anjali's show is on Friday. She was really excited about the guests that she's having come on, so please make sure to join her. And I'm very happy to have my baby, Emilia, watching. Hi, baby. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into our breathing technique. If you could please put your feet flat on the floor and close your eyes. Just take a regular breath in and out. And inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I feel like I've been out of practice because we didn't have a show on Monday. So if you didn't figure it out, the 4-7-8 breathing technique, if you're new to the show, we inhale for 4 seconds, we hold for 7, we release for 8, and then we do it 4 times. So let me go ahead. Oh, I thought I had taken my baby off, left her on there. And then, of course, the National Parents Union sends all of you love. And that is really what the National Parents Union is based on. It's a love. It came from a love for our kids, a love for our communities, and a love and a deep passion to get the voices of all parents, especially those that are not traditionally represented, into policy, into legislation, and into our systems, especially our education systems. So we're always here loving you and ready to do the work that's needed. So with that, I'm going to bring on my guest, Oralia Mijares Burns. Let me move over so I have the MPU. Okay, so you are, there you go. Hello.
Hi.
Oh, okay, I can't hear you. Hold on, let me see. Oh, it was me. It was me.
I was like, let's see. We've been dealing with this for what, almost a whole year now. And so I can't hear you. You're muted.
It's okay though. It's okay. I think I did that one time on another show, and I think someone was like, "We can hear them," and I realized it was me. Oh look, and you disappeared. Okay, you're back. So, Oralia, introduce yourself to us. Let us know who you are and how you are doing today.
I am doing phenomenal, fantastic. Oralia Mijares Burns, pleasure to see you and pleasure to be with you, Marisol. Super honored that you'd also have me as part of the conversation. We've known each other for what, 10, maybe a little bit longer, 10 years? No, it hasn't been that long.
So it's been at least 8 years.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, it's been 8 years.
Yes.
Going on.
Yes. So that sounds about better. Sometimes my time gets a little warped, and especially it feels like we lost a whole entire year last year. So anywho, a pleasure to be with you guys. It's lots of energy that you guys do and you bring. I am just super proud of you for doing this work and investing in this much needed space for both parents and just people out there looking for access to resources and that. So again, thank you for having me.
I'm so glad that you're here. And, I love the way that you described yourself, because I asked you for just a couple of quick bio sentences for the announcement that I make. And you describe yourself as a leadership development person, right? But then also a mama that's just trying to make it in the world.
And if that's not the truth, yeah. So I met my husband, going on 8 years now. And so I know that timeline is very intact. We are a family of 5, including a dog who you might have heard a little while ago. He'll be on his best behavior, I hope to promise, for the next hour or so. But we've been trying to do this thing called raising a blended family for about 8 years. And yes, absolutely, that's the hardest job I have. Just doing the right thing, ensuring that you're, looking at everything from the full perspective, maintaining everything that you hope and aspire and have learned and know is possible. So that's definitely the hardest space, I would say, for me. By day, by profession, I work for a local credit union. I say local, but we're actually headquartered in San Antonio, Texas. We are scanned throughout 3 different states: Colorado, Utah, and a little bit in the southern coastal bend of Texas and El Paso. So I do leadership development for this organization, and it's just a joy to work with leaders at whatever space that they're in, of their careers, of their life. I get the privilege and honor of working with them very closely and very intimately to really learn more about where they are as people, who they are as individuals, really what brought them to leadership, what goals they have. And really just helping make a positive impact about their lives and their teams and hopefully their personal and future goals as well. So it was funny because as I was looking at your previous guests and seeing all the different amazing work that they do, I said, I don't understand why I'm even being called to be a partner in this. But that said, just happy to be here and happy to just share in any way that you guys find appropriate.
Well, in this show, the nightly restorative check-in, like the idea of this show is we're just checking in. It's a conversation and like talking about who you are and how you are in this world. And I've been really blessed to have just everybody that comes on just comes on with their heart and who they are. And that's it. Like that's the point of the show, is just to have a moment of connection with humanity. And it really was needed, when COVID started. So we started
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so really it's such an honor to have you on. And so I'm wondering how your day was today, this inauguration day, and being a mom. I know you said you're a family of 5, and I know that you have a biological daughter, and I know that your husband, Eric, I know does he have 2 daughters?
2, Gabby and Lily. So we've got 2 16s and a 14, 2 college-bound seniors, and one that just started her freshman year in the pandemic. You grow up and you have all these wonderful ideas and dreams of your senior year and your freshman year, and then little do you know, you're forced to be in a home with your family, who both your parents are working from home and trying to, navigate their day to day. My husband is actually a prosecutor for our local city, and so it's funny. I've learned more about his work than I ever wanted to know, and he's probably been the same. He can tell you all of the folks that we coach and all the folks that we work with, and it's funny. I think it's nice though, because it gives us a real reality into each other's space, and really, I think for us, it's helped us appreciate one another, and I'll say ultimately also kind of grown us as a couple and as a unit and as a family through the pandemic itself. But yes, we have 3 girls, a dog, and so if you guys do any praying, any lighting of velas, all of them, we'll take everything, all the blessings you have. I should have also mentioned, I'm one of 5. I've got 2 sisters and 2 brothers. My parents gratefully are still with us, and they all reside here in San Antonio, Texas. What else? First generation college graduate. I'm really proud of that. Also, I know that 2 other of my siblings have pursued higher ed. I've got my youngest brother is actually in his sophomore year of college, and he definitely wants to be a doctor. So super excited for him. Definitely want to champion and support him through that. But let's see, what else? What else can I share around that area?
I What's so beautiful is, like you said, like you were the first generation, but you're definitely not going to be the last.
Oh
And
yeah.
starting talking about your kids, and you have 2 daughters that are seniors, and I'm sure looking at universities and looking at where they're going, like that is phenomenal. So I have, today the first female vice president was sworn in, and she is a Black woman. She is a Black and South Asian woman. So how has that been for your family? Your family of women, and as of also, so your family at home, and what's the conversation been like with your extended family?
Oh, absolutely. So I'll also mention that our family is multiracial. And so our daughters, I think, just seeing someone that looks like them represented in this capacity, I think has just been, life changing, right? We didn't have that when we were growing up, nor did we even think it was a near possibility. And I think seeing that reflected in today's climate after everything that we've gone through in the recent past, I think it's a glimmer of light and a glimmer of hope. We have a group chat, and one of the assignments that the girls got today was to just go back and look at future being made and that. So I think there's a sense of, I want to say the biggest word I can use is relief and hope for our future. And then just knowing that, I think ultimately, regardless of what space you're in, you really want to know that, hey, if someone that looks like me and maybe had similar experiences to me can make it, then there's hope for me and there's hope for my future. And I think that that's the message that was articulated today for generations to come, and especially for young women and young girls that, you know, haven't had this representation ever before. I think it's what we need at this time for sure.
And did you happen to see the young woman, the young poet laureate?
You know what? I saw little glimpses and pieces. I haven't watched the entire thing, but phenomenal. I mean, this is our future, and the fact that we have people that can speak so eloquently and pull on the heartstrings and really speak about the right things, I think it's just fantastic. When I think about the world that our kids have seen and the normal that they have kind of been illustrated to them, when I see them kind of rally around like that, that gives me hope for our future, because I will tell you that our girls, we've really raised them to know kind of right from wrong and to advocate for what's right. And I think that that was illustrated today. And so knowing that that sentiment is shared but not communicated often, I think that that's a missing component, right? And so I'm really proud that we have that opportunity to hear, and that the girls have that opportunity to see someone in their youth that, you know, can advocate for that change that we all know that we need desperately. So also, I want to keep bringing myself back to the word hope, because that's exactly what it is: hope and optimism for a better future.
I think what struck me about her and what I love about our youth is the clarity in which the clarity in which she was able to describe our like what the current reality is and the way to the reality. One of the lines that really stood out to me is she said, you know, like somehow you have to like search for the light and you have to be the light.
Mm-hmm.
And that from a 22-year-old, you know, the clarity that they see the world, it's just that's what's inspiring to me. And I was a little irritated at I don't remember, I think I was watching CNN, but they were like really talking about her age, like that was the big deal, because yes, she's young, but I mean, who are the people that see the world in the right way, and who are our thought leaders? It's
Mm-hmm.
really the youth.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
they have this clarity that I've never, I think I'm barely experiencing now in my 47s, you know, but they have this clarity that they see the world. So of course they're the ones that are going to lead us, and it shouldn't be surprising to us.
Mm-hmm. No, and absolutely, you are so right here. And I think the beautiful thing about kids and about you know, our youth is that, you know, as adults, we see the world through confines. We have lenses that really color our perspective,
Mhm.
and gratefully, our children don't have that. And I think for us leaders and us, you know, folks that have they're experienced, right? That's the HR politically correct way to say it. For us that are in and have been around the block, it's enabling that, right? It's allowing them and to champion that power that they have to see things from the confine, not from the confines that we see them, right? To think outside the box. I think that's what's going to make us change in the right direction, because, you know, they don't have the limitations that we have. We immediately will see, you know, options A through C and say, oh, in 1980 we were in option B, and so it can't happen because this happened. Whereas kids can say, no, this is something that's absolutely right, we know exactly which way to go, and they just are so creative, and they apply that genius to really help move us in the right direction. And I can say that this generation is one that just will not tolerate, you know, injustice. And I say that just from every single regard. Maybe they might not have the right language or terminology that they need to kind of push things forward, but that's where I think we can be really instrumental and pivotal for them in helping them craft that in a way that makes sense, that helps them understand and recognize the power that they have within. But I think that's a beautiful thing with our next generation, that they don't have those limitations, the self-imposed limitations that we have as experienced individuals.
Yeah, I think part of what like you're talking about, I see as a partnership. Like we need to, as you say, experienced, as the experienced people in the room, like we need to learn how to partner and bring their voices in the space. That like because what you're talking about, like really looking at some of that intergenerational action and intergenerational learning and action, because we siphon and we silo things off. Like, like this learning experience, or this is for, for this age, or for this people that are in these careers. But to open that up and really look at, how we can partner with our youth in a more meaningful way, I think is the way to what you talk about with hope and optimism. And I think also giving us that opportunity to start dreaming again.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just recognizing that everyone brings a unique perspective, a unique experience to the table, and really valuing and championing that. I'll say for, growing up, and especially in the Latino culture, you don't really have a voice. And so it's really tough to, maintain and earn your seat, earn your stake inside the conversation, whether it's something as simple as, okay, what's for dinner? Well, you don't really have a choice. This is what we've got. These are the resources we have, and so forth. At least for my experience, that's what it was. I'm not trying to generalize anything by far. And, no offense to anyone who might be listening who didn't have a similar experience. But that said, I have had to relearn my parenting practices, especially for my kids, because I know that that's not right. And I know that in order for our kids to feel like they have an equitable stake inside any conversation, we've got to demonstrate and share that at home. And so I sometimes will find myself kind of tapping into previous experiences that I've had, or, oh, we didn't do it this way, and everyone gets the same because that's how we were when we grew up. But that said, I think the beautiful thing about being a parent is that you can pick and choose what works for you and what works for your family, and really use that as your guiding compass for your life and for your family. And so I think that that's what I have done as a parent and as a stepmom. I call myself a bonus mom because I don't really like the word stepmom, but in any case, but I also think that what works for one family might not also work for you. And so it's finding a nice balance between what's conducive for your environment and what works for your family. I think that's what we've done here and what we continue to strive to do within our own household, and ensuring that everyone feels like they're part of the conversation, and everything from as little as, okay, this is what we plan to do, as far as like, dinner plans, or watching a movie together, everything, right? It's like, what are the different experiences that you want to have? What are the different things that you want to invest in terms of your time? We try to, make those decisions as a family. It's not always easy, especially when you have 5 people, right? And it's hard to come to a consensus with that. But knowing that it's the right thing to do, and it's the right thing that validates each of the different perspectives, I think that that's important. And just, creating that child that has that confidence and that autonomy in the future.
When we were talking, one of the things I was thinking about is why is this generation so different? And I think part of it has to do with what you touched on and what you talked about earlier, that like we, you're younger than I am, but the older, our generations, there were things that we were kind of told that we couldn't do or shouldn't do, and so there were limits that were placed. And it sounds like some of what you've done is you've taken away some of those limits. Like you've taken away, like, no, like these things are possible and you have a voice that counts. So take us back. Like, when did you realize that was a change that you needed to make?
Oh, geez. I would say that it was probably when I became when I became a mother for myself, right, as myself, I you always have an opinion until you're in the position, right? And so I think it's very easy to sit here and critique others,
Mm-hmm.
ways of doing things. But I think until you find yourself in that predicament, you don't necessarily have the experience or the perspective to adequately, navigate whatever situation it is. So I think for me, when I realized that I had to kind of be an adult, and which, by the way, I learned very early on. I became a mother early on. I think I turned 20, 5 days after I had my child. And so that said, it was a very difficult adjustment and transition I had to make. But I'll say that I always tell Trin, my biological daughter, that she was my saving grace, because had I not had her that early on, I don't think I would have been in the space I am today. And so that said, I think um, having her early on really just kind of said, okay, let's change some stuff, because what you and or what you have done, and maybe some of the things you've learned maybe haven't worked to your advantage and today. And so I think for me, that's when it changed ultimately. And I think that there's one defining moment that you have as an adult and as a parent where it's like you can consume all of the advice, whether it's from your parents, maternal, paternal, whatever, or family members. But I think it's kind of like your coming of age of a parent, where you get to have all these different advice pieces and then still make your own decision on your own 2 feet and rest confident knowing that, okay, the decision I make, it doesn't agree. It wasn't the one that, so and so asked me to make, but I know it's the best outcome for me and for my family and for our situation. And when you can rest assured and have peace at night knowing that you made the right decision, ultimately with you and your family unit's best interest at heart and mind, I think that's that defining moment where it just changes for you. And I remember that very early on, having that very defining moment.
I was the same age as you when I had my first daughter. So I turned 20 a month after she was born. And this, like the same, that connection of like, I know that I am who I am because I had her.
Mm-hmm.
And in all ways. And I think it was like my pregnancy was the last bit of my childhood. Like that was like my pregnancy kind of ended like it. And not that I was a child in any sense, I was 19, but just that sense of like, I really became an adult when I became a mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't like the responsibility that I took, the way that I felt about being a mom, like it was such an honor to me. And I didn't know that it would be, but having this responsibility, and then I got pregnant when she was 6 months old with my second daughter. So having two little girls, and one of the moments that I remember, I was going to community college, and it took me 3 years, and I transferred to San Diego State. And it was my very first class. It was a summer school class. So my Emilia was like 3 months old, and Camerina she was close to 2. And this teacher was like a child psychology class. She had us go through this exercise, and she said, like, I want you to think about, because there were a lot of young people who didn't have kids, but think about, like, if you have a child, fine, but if you don't, which a lot of people didn't, like, what kind of life do you want for your child?
Mm-hmm.
What do you want their childhood to be like? What do you want them to be like with their friends? What do you like, as they get older, how do you want them to be as a student? How do you want them to be in their first job as an employee? The idea then, like, as they become parents, what do you want for them? So she took us through this whole exercise, and it was just a really beautiful, like, writing exercise and moment of going through it. And then she like stopped and said, okay, you have to be who you want your kids to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so those dreams for my children
Mm-hmm.
had to become the dreams and the actions that I had to take.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I really appreciate that you took it back to your daughter and that time in your life, because that is when you start to look at, and I think also reflect on the ways that, you know, you wish your life would have been different, the things that you wish would have been done differently, potentially, you know, in your childhood or as you were being raised, but then really finding your way with your kid,
Mm-hmm.
building your family with your kid, and meeting them. And I really think the reason why our youth are so like phenomenal is because of the growth that our parents made from the generation before them, that continued in the growth that we made,
Mm-hmm.
you know, which allowed a lot of what you're talking about. I think that's that parenting style of children having a voice, of no longer being silenced, you know, for the most part, is allowing this just really beautiful freedom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think it's also just helping kids make those connections, right? Because we say this in the leadership space too, right? We never want to rob someone of their aha moment, right? We want to help them get there quicker, right? And so I think for me as a mom, that's one of the things I try to do, right? And my daughter will tell you otherwise. Mom, you have a lecture for everything, right? And I think I get that from my dad. He would lecture us for hours and hours and hours, even if we were going to get disciplined for something. But I remember there were times that I'd be like, just spare me the lecture. I just want the, you know, what you'd want instead of the lecture. But in any case, I think for kids, it's helping them get to that aha moment as quickly as possible. And I think that's hard, right? That's hard as a parent because you've been there, you see the signs, you know exactly what some of the pitfalls are. You see the red flags.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we do an injustice to our kids if we're helicopter parents. And I bet if my husband would hear me right now, he'd probably be like, "Are you listening to your own words?" But you said something earlier that made me think about that, because you know your kids are really your accountability partners, because what they see in you is what they emulate. And I always have to remind myself, because you are the role model for your child. You're their first role model, and what you do sets the norm for them. And you have to believe in that both positively and negatively, right? So you know, train up the child in the way that you really want them to go, and you can almost bet that they have enough foundation, enough groundwork inside of them that they're going to make the right decisions ultimately, you know, for their future. But it's easier said than done, especially when you know that it's a big, huge, high stakes situation. It's hard to not put the bumper rails up, for sure.
There were so many things that you said that I absolutely love. And I think that, you know, I've come to a place in my parenting and in life when I realized like I'm on my journey, and this is
Mm-hmm.
mine. It's not anybody else's journey. We join journeys, we join paths, right? But my children are also on their journey. And the way that you phrase that, you never want to rob somebody of their aha moment, but you don't want to rob anybody of their learning.
Mm-hmm.
And that aha moment, that learning, like that's their journey.
Mm-hmm.
Good, bad, and different, like that is their journey. And the reality in life and our human experience is that there is bad, that we're going to make really bad choices. And the goal is to learn from them, hopefully, right? But that's part of, I think, the conversation with your kids. So I think that blend of modeling and then also talking. So
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, like that, almost like I think what you do in the leadership coaching, where you're kind of explaining what you're doing and why, not to
Mm-hmm.
explain, but just kind of like that thought process, the thinking. I think that open conversation also really makes a difference. And I
Oh
can see
yeah.
that in the way that you say, like you talk about like what you're going to have for dinner, because there's a dialogue, there's a sharing of thought.
Mm-hmm.
And that just, it makes such a difference for our kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And the other thing that I think is just asking those open-ended questions. A lot of times you hear that, oh, my teen doesn't want to talk. They come home and they're just like, oh yeah, fine, you know, whatever. And all teens have that. And you know, some after, especially after a hard, bad day, right? But doing more of those insightful questions, asking them more of those opinion based, so that they can share that. And I think holding your own judgment is really key, especially if you don't agree with something, or you don't, you can't identify with it. I think those are especially the moments where you really want to, harness your own judgment. And I'll also say easier said than done, right? Because you were going to have a perspective, you're going to have an experience, but it's really, how did that make you feel? What was it like? Share more about that. That sounds interesting. What are others saying about that? I think those are the questions that really help children feel valued and like their perspective and their opinion means something. And I think that that's something that we can do more of as parents, and we don't do enough. We see so many kids that are suffering, and it's because people don't take time to ask those insightful questions sometimes, or there isn't anyone to help pull that out. And so, what happens is that kids, they harbor that, and I think that that's unhealthy for our children. So I think that that's something that we really try to do. And I'll also say that it wasn't something that was normal in our upbringing. It's something that I've had to learn, and I'm still learning. And I always tell my kid I'm a work in progress, right? My children, we're a work in progress, and we're not perfect. And I may be really good today, but really bad tomorrow. And that's the level of understanding that we have with one another. The other thing is just also watching, being aware who's watching, because as a parent, it's always, you're always on, and there is no, I'm sick today, or I'm not a parent day today. But knowing that there's always eyes and sponges that are around in the room, I think that also helps keep ourselves accountable. Yeah, I think that's what we've experienced.
I love that you keep that reality with your kids. Like, you keep that, like, you're a human being.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some of the, like, it's so important to acknowledge when you have messed up, when you've when you've harmed somebody, or you did something wrong, especially with your kids.
Mm-hmm.
And use that for yourself as a moment to learn about life and learn about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about those moments when I've had to, and really made the decision to apologize for my kids for not being my best, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just how beautiful it is to open that space with them of communication and understanding as human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, I'm your mom. Yes, but like, I'm a human being. And then
Yeah.
allow space for forgiveness
Mm-hmm.
and another chance,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm. Oh, and we have so many of those. We just had one this weekend, and those things are just things that are inevitable. They're going to happen. It is just something that's part of it, right? And if you don't want to invest in those moments, those very intimate moments, very needed moments, um, then it's really tough to show that you love, and to have your kids feel and embrace that love. I will also say that you mentioned something, and it made me think about also something that's not easy for us in our culture. I can remember very vividly, having, taking offense to something that happened, or seeing a family member take offense to something another family member did. And it's kind of like, in my culture and in my upbringing, you just, like, it happened, somebody slighted you, and you move on, and there's no conversation, there's no dialogue. And so with the absence of the dialogue, is that you're left to interpret the
Mm-hmm.
intention, the outcome, the future for yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
everybody's left to interpret it, right? And so I think one of the things that I'm still learning to do is how to be a little bit more emotionally intelligent, to know when those moments are happening, and to be present in those moments. Because if you are not doing it, then you're leaving people to interpret that on their own, including your kids. And so when you're sorry, and when you've slighted someone, which I do it often, and we don't mean to, even if it's the smallest thing. It's not up to you to decide that you offended someone. It's up to them to decide that you offended them. And I think that once we can get over ourselves, and get over our own pride, that's when we can move forward. I think the other thing is not necessarily also, showcasing you were wrong and I was right. It's, I was offended and I was offended. Now let's move forward. Let's get to a resolution together, right? We don't want to stay in this space. How can we collectively move forward? And I think that's one of the things that we can do rather than just leaving it up to everyone's interpretation.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you're talking about, which is really important, is speaking it out, is the reflection, that thing of that happens when you're like, ooh, like that didn't feel right. So like what is this feeling? Am I hurt? Like, am I angry? Am I like, and what was it about that is that's pushing in me? And I think that reflection is the first piece, but then that next piece is having the conversation about it. And that, I think what you were talking about just a little bit earlier in this part of the conversation was that people will just not address it. And not addressing things, what can happen? Passive aggressiveness happens. Feelings get built up. Anger, resentment can happen from not talking about, not bringing clarity around, like what you were talking about, clarity of perception, of your own perception, but then also like that clarity of communication about intent. Because if you start making, like assuming and putting together the pieces without the clarity, but having that conversation is something that I really, in a lot of families, like we don't talk about doing that kind of work. And, like in leadership development, there's courses, there's certificates that people get on having difficult conversations, with stuff, because people will, like, very human as we avoid, because it feels unsafe. It feels unsure. It is really uncomfortable. And how beautiful would it be if we in our homes started learning and practicing how to be uncomfortable together and talk about, like, hey, like that happened. This is how I felt about it. But I'm thinking it was because of that, like the clarity of that communication, like clearing it up is what I'm thinking, right? Am I on target? Am I off target? Is that what you meant? Is that what you like having that dialogue, that communication? Imagine what the workplace would be like. Imagine, what it would be like out in the world if we were like really thinking about how we're feeling about things and reacting to things, and then how we're communicating that. And in like I can really think in the work that you're doing in leadership that your work has had to impact what you do at home. And vice versa. Like that work is it's so aligned. And people get really like, I've had like, oh, you don't want to talk about leadership and parenting in the same, but I don't see it as a bad thing. I don't see it as the greatest honor in my life being chosen as a principal, or the second greatest honor, the first greatest honor being a parent. It's because of that level of responsibility, right, that you carry. And I think that's a good thing. So what has that experience been for you? How has leadership, your work in leadership development fed into your parenting and your home life? And also, how has your parenting home life fed into your work?
Yeah, I agree. They are very much aligned. When you think about a leader is not tasked with, ensuring his or her or their own success. The leader, and that's one of the misconceptions, right? Because when you think about when you get promoted to leadership,
again, you got to say it again. Say it again. Say it again. I think you need like effective leaders or effective leadership.
Exactly. So effective leaders. Yeah, exactly. So we're not responsible for our own success. They're not tasked with that. Instead, they're tasked to move a mission, a vision, a set of core principles forward and ensure that everyone in their view and under their care is excelling to the level in which they're excelling and being as productive, effective, you have it, whatever. And I think, as leaders, our role is really to enable and remove barriers for our teams to being the best that they can be, right? And if you really think about it from a parent perspective, our role as parents is not to ensure that we're equipped, not to ensure that we have everything we need. Instead, it's to ensure that everyone within our household, within our family is and has everything they need to be as successful as they can in their own pursuits of whatever they're doing. And if you think about it as parents and as leaders, we want the people that are in our purview to be better than we are, to get better heights and better accomplishments than we ever did and ever could. And I think that they're similarly aligned. And I also think that when being a parent, it's the outcomes of your children are very much aligned with the supports and the coaching and the mentorship and the moments that you invest in. And I think earlier when you were talking about how we sometimes will skirt those conversations, those important conversations, one of the things that we hear often in the workplace is we don't have the time. We don't have the time to invest in that conversation. It's not the right moment. I can't deal with someone's discomfort. Well, I think we have to be responsible for those things, right? Having that courage to approach those conversations, having that courage to have that dialogue is needed. And if we all just had that courage, rather than not investing in the time or not investing in the experience because we don't want to offend someone, well, think about all the other pieces that you're going to offend indirectly, right? And so I think that they're very much aligned. Same thing within, your own family matters. I think it's important to, understand all perspectives and to really think about the predicament from each of those different perspectives and not just one. So I believe that they are aligned. And I believe that as you become, even if you think about a person who is both a parent and a leader, the positive outcomes that you see as a leader, they trickle down into being a parent, right? And same thing for a parent. The positive outcomes that you see as a parent also trickle up into your leadership as well. So I think that they're aligned, and I know that there's a lot of similarity in some of the expectations and responsibilities that we have in both facets of life.
That was so beautiful, Oralia. Like you really, I'm sorry, my phone's just gonna ring.
It's okay.
But it's so beautiful the way that you described both of parenting and leadership. I've never really heard it described that way. And I think like not just the responsibility of it, but like what the role is and what our role is as parents and as leaders is to get the group like it's beyond the person who's in that role, but it's really to push and elevate that group. Your children, your family, and I also think in partnership, right, with your husband, or your spouse, or whoever your partner, your community is. There's something though that you said that I want to get to, and it was probably about 25 minutes ago, but it stood out to me, and that was just around, I think also related to time, but how are you finding the time to take care of yourself? You have two 16-year-old daughters, a 14-year-old daughter. You have a husband. You have an extended family that I'm sure that you care for and are involved in. How are you creating time and space to take care of yourself? And how are you doing it now in these times?
It's a non-negotiable for me. I think I learned this lesson really hard. If you don't care for yourself first, you can't care for others. And it's the same thing in leadership. If you're not taking time to fill your cup, you can't be present and invest in others. You think about it, when you board a flight and the stewardess tells you to put your mask on first before you help anyone around you. And it's the same way. We are physically incapable of helping those around us unless our cups are full. So for me, it's a non-negotiable. I have to invest in that time. I do it both, spiritually, physically, and mentally as well. And also just knowing what those trigger moments are. You know what they are, and you don't want to leave yourself to, be that ticking time bomb and to have those episodes where you're just lashing out. And so those are clear indicators, right? And so for me, I try to invest in myself every single day, whether it's, learning something new or just having a moment of peace of doing absolutely nothing, which I'll tell you from my generation, I'm also a millennial. And so we have the always on FOMO mentality, right? And I'm not generalizing here. And at least that's just my perspective of it, right? But we need to be okay with giving ourselves that downtime to pour into ourselves. I do a lot of running. And so at least 5 to 6 times a week, I'll go out and run. And that is my mental space. It's actually where I work out the problems that I have. But I'll also say that as a leadership and emotional intelligence coach, one of the things I always encourage people to do is to take that time to just be alone, no thoughts, no thing to do, no physical or mental labor that you've got going on. Those moments just really help bring that mental clarity that you need. And especially the type of work that we do, it's to have that discernment and to get closer to that connection that you need to really empathize both as a parent and as a leader. So for me, it's important. I try I try for every single day not to skip those days, that time, because it's important. Think about it. Every single day, you've got a cup, right? And that cup is as full as you left it the day before. And unless you pour into that cup every single day, you cannot physically pour anything out of it. And so most of us operate from a 20 to 30% cup on a daily basis. And so think about that 20, 30%. Someone comes in, your kid needs something. It's only a matter of time until you get to the depleted cup, right? And so if you're not doing something on a daily basis and listening to your body, I think that you're running on E, and it can be very detrimental to the people around you.
One of my favorite things that Iyanla Van Zant talks about is, she says, it's not selfish to take care of yourself. It's self-full. Mm-hmm. And she talked about the cup. She said, the cup, like, I fill my cup for me. Mm-hmm. And anything that overflows is what goes to y'all. Mm. And that idea, Oralia, of like, oh my gosh, like filling your cup for yourself. So like I think very realistic is we run on that 20% to 30%. But the idea that she offers is that cup is full 100% for you. Mm-hmm. And anything that goes over then is what is for anybody else. Mm-hmm. And so I think that like, I see that as a challenge of a lifetime, is to really figure out how to keep that cup full for yourself, and mm-hmm. to not see it as something that is selfish, that it's normalized, right? So that you can give and support other people. And usually, I hate that analogy about the airplane, because I have, how many air flights have you been on and you've never needed it?
A lot.
I've never, the cabin pressure has never gone down, and that thing has never, but self-care is a daily act, like you talked about. And it's not a once a daily act. It is throughout the day, the things that we do. And I love the breathing technique that Anjali shared, because that is a way mm-hmm. of me to take care of myself. Mm-hmm. And I like, when my shoulders are up to here, I'm like, oh, like that taking that moment to put my feet on the ground, and then just, it brings that awareness of my body and myself, and can get me, to a space of more calm, more evenness. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that I love the challenge of, what would you do if your cup was full just for you? Mm-hmm. What does that look like, of your cup being full for you, 100%? And then whatever that 20%, 30% that overflows can be for others, as opposed to working off of a 20 to 30%,
Right. Yeah. If that's not the life goal and the big golden question, I don't know what is, right? it's having more than you need every single day, every moment to pour out and invest. I think we'd all be a better society, and we'd all live from a place of plentiful if we had that mentality, if everyone practiced that. Yeah, that would be the world would be a better place for sure.
I think it's like you said, a life goal, but it has to be realistic. Like, we have to figure out how to reach it. You know who's going to figure it out is our youngins.
Oh yeah, they're going to do some app that's just like, you're not moving until you fill this cup 150%, something.
they're gonna figure it out for us. Before we go, I do want to hit, because so you've been with your husband for you've been together 8 years. Have you? But you haven't been married 8 years, right?
No, we've been married since, oh gosh, 2017.
So
So 3 years.
how are you? How are you taking care of that relationship? Because that is such an important. I know it's important to you, and is the basis. It's the basis of your home, right? How do you take care of that relationship together?
As husband and wife, every day we're a work in progress. I will share that. We do our best to have a partnership. I will say that I have a second chance at love, and I think that that's the best thing. I really do truly see him as just a life partner. He's my best friend. He is someone that pushes me to be a better version of myself, and I think the same for him. Um, I think a level of respect that's there, knowing that I'm not amazing at everything and he's not amazing at everything. Um, I am grateful that in the areas where I'm not good, he is really fantastic in, like cooking and, and those kinds of things. I also know that there's things that I do, a little bit more efficiently for our family. And so I think recognizing that and having an um, agreed agreement, knowing that there's things that I'm better at doing and there's things that he's better at doing. I think that that's truly a real partnership, and that's one of the things that I think we do really, really well. um, I think he's also made me a better parent. I really think like having that unbiased set of lenses, um, that really kind of helps you just look at situations from different perspectives that you wouldn't have otherwise maybe thought of. I think we do that for one another. And I know that he definitely has made me a better mom. And just having the right, the right amount of energy required to approach some of those conversations, especially that you may not be as prepared to experience. Maybe you haven't experienced something like that. I will say that those are some of the things that we do really, really well. Um, I think he's been my coworker also during the pandemic, and so we both work in the same space. And so I think ultimately having the opportunity to just really um, rally and champion and support one another, both professionally and personally, I think that that's also been a blessing as well. Um, but I'll be honest too, it's really, really hard raising a blended family. And some of the things that we do, I think ultimately knowing that we're, in this together and we really want to come to a place of resolution versus, this is what happened, this is how I'm feeling, this is how you're feeling, you're wrong, you're right. I think ultimately knowing that we're in this together and moving forward together, I think that that's one of the things that really helps us be successful with one another and in our marriage. Um, and then I also think that he's also helped me get to a space where I'm just a little bit more relaxed too. Like I also remember, growing up and it's kind of like you got to move, you got to, also having a child very early on and, finishing, school and finishing my master's degree. I mean, everything. I feel like I was go, 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 go constantly. And I think being in this union and being in this marriage is also reminded me that it's okay to enjoy the little moments and to take pleasure in those moments. And so I think having that patience and having that leisure, I think, has been something that's also been a blessing for our marriage.
Well, and I think like any good partnership, part of what you talked about in taking care of yourself is taking those moments. So
Mm-hmm.
like any good partnership, um, he has also supported you in taking better care of yourself. And here is your love, who's saying, um, you have made him a better parent. That's really beautiful. Hi, Eric. Thank you for joining us. And thank you for the love that you are giving this amazing woman and for your family and for sharing her with us tonight. So our time is up. The hour goes by fast. It was so beautiful talking to you, connecting with you, and I learned so much from you. I am leaving this conversation with a freshened, like inspired sense of the importance of dialogue and the importance of coming to resolutions in things. So I want to thank you for that. Thank you for being with us.
Marisol, thank you for having me and for all the work that you and the National Parents Union do. It's been an honor being part of the conversation today, and I look forward to continue to follow you and all of y'all's great work. So I hope you have a blessed evening, and again, thank you.
Thank you. And when I come to San Antonio, I will definitely come see you because
Yes.
I don't know what year it'll be, but we need to get together soon. Okay, everybody, good night. Please make sure to watch Dr. Anjali on Friday. I know she didn't, I don't think she told me the name of the guest, but I know that she was super excited, like really excited about the guest. And because they were doing some really amazing work. So please make sure to tune in. Have a good night. Please know that you are loved and you are cared for always. Good night, everybody.